It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast. Hope your weekend is going well, especially regarding anything to do with property. Yesterday, once again, plenty of those auctions happening around the country. And then, of course, we also had the election, so we're a day after. I hope you managed to cast your vote. Talking of property, we are in Darwin talking with Will tomorrow, checking out one of the areas that is still performing pretty well, has to be said. It is a Sunday, May the 4th. Busy week. This week we caught up with Simone Fogarty there in Orange. It's very much a tree change in New South Wales, one of the areas like Darwin doing so well. You can buy a unit there, median price of units in Orange, $450,000. Also this week, Trump and the US turmoil in the real estate market. We talked to Patrick, who gave us a sense of what everyone is feeling about the trade wars and the corrosive anti-sentiment towards Trump. The worm is really starting to turn. Monica too was here as well on Friday talking about the luxury Sydney market. Why not? Because Australia is now the second most searched country for ultra-luxury homes, over $7 million. And Monica also talks about the government's April 1st ban on foreign buyers and what that actually means, whether it's having any sort of impact. She says, basically, that it's a complete waste of time. So her comments and more coming up after this.
Grab your weekly dose of inspiration to help build a real estate portfolio. We talk to the best in the business every day. Learn from the professionals and know your property with us.
I did, yeah. So I'm previously living at Luddenham and decided city living wasn't for us anymore and thought a tree change was just what we needed. We had a young family. We'd driven through Orange a few times and decided, let's just do it. Worst case, we could always come back. We didn't know anyone at all, so just moved here with my husband and 2 kids. And honestly, it was the best decision that we've made. It was just so welcoming. It's a beautiful community, great place to raise the kids. Got everything that we need, but still close enough to Sydney and main areas if you're needing to go down there, and obviously still to visit family who are living down in Sydney.
And as far as the rental market is concerned, rental yields 4.4% from PropTrack, median snapshot for the unit prices. Now, this will be of interest for first home buyers. 450 grand is the median price for units. That is down though, minus 10%. And it looks like your market in the units, it peaked around March 2024 last year, 505,000, with the yields doing a little bit better, 5.1%.
So I think with the units, what we're finding is quite interesting because the prices have gone up both sales and rental side. Couples are looking at buying smaller properties to be able to enter the market. And equally, they're quite attractive for investors because at the moment we're finding the most popular properties that are being leased are either like your 4-bedroom homes or your smaller 1 to 2 bedroom properties, especially if people are, single or couple, they're picking those properties so that they're still able to save to, eventually, like we all have the dream to be able to buy their own home.
Before I ask you about what happened around that COVID period, Simone, what about some of the better performing suburbs of Orange?
So when you're looking at Orange, the main areas that people are drawn to, West Orange is definitely where there are higher value properties. North Orange is also very popular because it's quite close to the Waratah Sporting Club. So if people have young families, it's a really close proximity. It also has its own Woolworths and little shopping centre, so you're not having to go right into town. Mind you, getting directly into town from most areas of Orange is usually within sort of a 10 to 15-minute time frame. So it's all very close proximity. Very different from when I was living down in Sydney.
Yeah, and just having a look at those peaks, because during COVID, Orange's property market saw this significant growth, with median house prices increasing by 53%. I mean, that's surpassing Sydney's 37% growth, which was pretty good in the same period. Is it fair to say that recent data is showing that the market is now stabilising?
I believe so, yes. That increase that we've seen, it's never happened before in the market of Orange. It's always had, pretty steady growth, but nothing to those figures that we've seen. I think it would be quite unlikely if we see that again. So we are seeing that prices are stabilising. So it is a good time to enter the market, whether, relocating or looking for an investment, because the median house price is a lot less than like your Sydney or CBD areas of Australia. And it's got, everything that you're really needing for somewhere to live or to be attractive for potential tenants.
Don't navigate the real estate market alone. Let us help guide you in the world of real estate every day. Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights.
You're right. Things are happening every day, and it's kind of crazy to get a handle on it. And the stock market reacts one way and the bond market's reacting another, and that's happening with the dollar. And it's a lot to keep up with. I can imagine that people are sort of wondering what's going on over there in the US, and we're asking the same questions.
Yeah, I think we're going to see, though, aren't we, in the next 30 days particularly, as these trade tariffs and the costs to builders, particularly the new home sector, where people are going to be quite shocked, I think, just with some of those prices coming into effect.
Yeah, there's a lag period. And I don't think there's a big understanding of that. People say, oh, these tariffs are in effect. America's great again. I'm like, okay, let's hold our horses. It's going to be a few weeks before we actually see the prices. We're probably going to see Chinese goods clamping down after May, because it takes about 30 days for those goods by ship to reach the West Coast, even longer for like the ports around Houston and on the East Coast. We'll probably see that. And even if the Trump administration were able to just suddenly reverse it and say, okay, we're going to go back, we've reached a plan, to start that up again is going to take another few weeks. So there's going to be some pain starting next month, what I've been hearing. It'll see how long that lasts, depends on how quickly they can get through these trade skirmishes.
We're talking about building and the cost of building, and that's showing up on the radar in the next 30 days. Let's not forget, of course, it's right across the board for everything coming out of China. Let's have a look at public sentiment and what that is likely to do, because right now, President Xi in China has decided to lock down negotiations, taking this hardline stance that effectively leaves Trump with no viable leverage. Trump has called China's bluff on numerous occasions, but now President Xi, he's just refusing to negotiate, and Trump is left with no cards to play. The Chinese government doesn't really need to take any further action at this moment in time. They just need to wait and watch as Trump's position weakens both on the international stage and also within the domestic political landscape. And if other countries, this is what I find really interesting, Patrick, if other countries begin to adopt China's wait and see approach, Trump could find himself completely isolated and unable to negotiate his way out of this corner that he's boxed himself into. It's nobody else who's boxed him into the corner, only himself. And in this case, China, it's more likely that Trump is going to be the one that folds first. So I circle back to the public sentiment. It is already going backwards big time.
Yeah, it's taken a big decline as people are starting to see the impact and reading about it more, especially the implication of what inflation is going to be like over the next year and in the long term. And it's the highest it's been in years. And then I think people don't realize that the U.S., as giant as it is, it's 26% of global GDP. So that leaves about 3/4 of the world that has the rest. And so that's why I think some people Trump may have overplayed his hand versus China. China has been preparing for this, by the way, for the last several years. They've been ready for this. And they've lowered their share of exports to the US. So even if there's a halt in trade for them, it won't hurt them as much as it would in the past. And that's partly why they're not folding. And then other countries are kind of taking their lead similarly. And then I do wonder how much of these new plans, new incentives, no matter if we say, okay, we were kidding, we're going to go back to the old way of doing things, they may not want to do that. They may not trust us. And some of those things may be irreversible. You could talk about, we're going to bring back all these manufacturing things to the United States. And we could do that to a certain amount, but a lot of that's going to be robotic and automation. And it's not going to sweep at the kind of jobs that they're hoping for. So it'll remain to see on that. And for the building industry, yeah, that certainly higher costs for appliances. There are other things that you can source from the US in terms of negotiating with Canada for lumber. And now they've opened up all sorts of forests here in the US, but that doesn't mean it's the right kind of wood for housing that you use in the US. So I kind of look at all of this as something that wasn't really carefully thought through. And now we're sort of seeing the reaction of it.
We are your local source for unbiased, expert insights into the world of real estate. We are not a real estate company. Our only objective is to help you better understand the real estate market.
Good morning. So good to talk to you again. It's been a while.
It has. I think the last time we spoke to you, you were launching your book, so you would have sold a few of those copies, eh?
Oh my God. Yeah, but it's still, real estate is a better business. Yeah, the book keeps selling on Amazon if anybody interested. But you know what? We never forget what is our bread and butter. So we still think the real estate, particularly in our luxury market, the best.
Yes, stick to the bread and butter because you know it pretty well. Now, foreign investment in Australian property is down with a 15% drop in approvals last year. New taxes and a ban on buying established homes have made investing harder, so many international buyers now focus on gaining permanent residency. Just back to these investors from China. What's sort of happening in that space? Because you're dealing with that big time.
Yes, yeah. What's happening out there? So everybody can just probably, watch the news. And there is so much uncertainty, especially, you just mentioned the U.S. desire for U.S. properties from top to 7 now. Obviously, it's because of tariff, because of this trade war, making it really uncertain for the international buyers, particularly from China. But we're very lucky. So I think we're in a lucky country in Australia, and desire has, gone up like a bananas. So we're doing really, really well. Again, it's always the same reason. It's just safe. Okay, because we are dealing with ultra high net worth or high net worth individuals. They want to find somewhere their investment is safe. In terms of, returns, before people think, oh my God, I want, double in like 10 years, doesn't really matter anymore. Amazing, environment Australia has to provide to them. So this is still the number one reason.
Now, the government's April 1st ban on foreign buying existing homes has impacted temporary residents. What has happened since that government ban on the 1st of April?
Okay, I want to give you a bit of insight, all your listeners. That ban is almost like ridiculous. So I did have a big interview with the Financial Review Summit, and I mentioned that since 2023, that's according to Financial Review, it's only 0.1% of these international buyers, and in New South Wales, 0.01% of these buyers who has got no visa, purely investment in Australia or in New South Wales. It doesn't really affect anything. So that rule is kind of ridiculous. Okay, for people who want to sell in the luxury market to Chinese, it doesn't affect at all.
What about the dollar? The RMB, of course, it's improved because the Australian dollar has gone backwards. How big a factor is that with decision-making from the Chinese right at the moment? And then I guess you fuse into that the trade tariff and what Trump is trying to do. I've mentioned it before. He's trying to blow up the world economy.
Okay. Now, I did a little bit of study since I know I'm going to talk to you today. So that's a number 2 reason. Okay. Number 1 reason is always the same, right? So, because it's safe to be here. Number 2 reason is because of the dollar. The exchange rate is definitely in our benefit. We talked to so many buyers and now is the time. So they've been waiting and waiting. Number 1 is for the stamp duty to reduce. And number 2 is the exchange rate. So exchange rate is definitely to our benefit. We're very happy about it.
All right, so the luxury market 2025, let's have a look at this, Monica. What's been happening on your radar? Where's some of the good fortune in Sydney right now where people have been buying those luxury properties?
Oh, this year is definitely phenomenal. So in our portfolio, we have over 600 million properties in portfolio. Of course, everybody knows 60% of our buyers is probably the new migrants. So new migrants, not the investor. So people got the visa, they want to stay here, they want to live here, they want to bring up their children here. So this is the people. So 600 million is like an amazing portfolio. We never had this much before. So we are very much looking for this year.
I remember the last time that we spoke, you were dealing with a father with 3 children, and your brief was he wanted to buy properties for his 3 children. Back then, I think the budget was around $10 million each.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, oh my God, you remember that? It was a long time ago. Yeah, he's looking for a very big home for himself. And if I talk about big, it's the bigger internal size. Doesn't want to be big yacht because he's getting a bit older. But he got a budget for each of the child at $10 million.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.